The students in my animation class are required to create a professional portfolio that contains samples of simple skills they mastered in their animation class. Throughout the year, the students have learned the skills and created short animations using those skills. One of their final projects is to create a portfolio in Adobe CS6. That can showcase some of their skills for a potential employer. In this job ad, the short videos have already been created, and I'm demonstrating to the students how to create a portfolio, add interactive buttons, that will play their animations. There are 3 categories, so if I go back to the home button, there's the animation, the web page, and the resume. I'm only going to show them how to add the frame by frame and the home button, because once they understand how to put these buttons in, they'll be able to do it with all their little animations. But they do need to know how to go back home, and then they'll be able to click on their web page or on their resume and do the same thing. So that's what this job aid is, just to show them how to create a portfolio and how to create the buttons to navigate through the portfolio. So we're going to start a new animation. We're going to make it ActionScript 2.0. We're going to put a background in. We're going to import it to the library. I like to import to the library that I can go back and get it whenever I want. It's the transform tool to make it a little bigger. So this is my background layer. I'm going to add a layer on top of that. It's going to say portfolio. I'm separating the words and the background so I can extend the background when I want to. I want my type to be white, probably around 40. 38 is fine. I'll put Joanne's portfolio. Of course, the kids would write something probably a little more professional. Now I'm going to create some buttons. So I'm going to make another layer, and I'm going to name it buttons. My 3 buttons I'll pick a color. So we're going to have an animation button. We're going to have a, let's see, don't do it. I don't want to do that. I'll just copy this one. If I hold down Shift Option, I can copy this, bring it over. Shift Option. I'm on a Mac. I think I'll bring this over a little bit. So each one of these buttons are going to be made interactive. This one, I need to make that smaller. Animations. This one will be web pages. This one will be resume. Get this centered as I can. So these are my buttons. To make a button, whoops, what did I do there? To make a button, I'm going to lock my background. I keep getting my background. To make a button, you select it, you convert it to a symbol, and you name it. So I'll select this one. I'll convert it to a symbol. And I'll name this one. Convert symbol. So I have my 3 buttons. Now the thought behind this is I'm going to click on this animation button and it's going to go to a page. It's going to go a page of buttons, and each button, when you click it, will show a different animation. So I'm going to work on my animation button first. So I'm going to go over here to my library and find my animation button, and I'm going to right click it and I'm going to edit it. And I'm going to insert a keyframe, and you do this on every button. And then I'm going to change the color. Then I'm going to insert a keyframe. The reason I'm changing the color is so I can be sure that the button's active. If when I hover over it with my mouse nothing happens, I'm going to know that this button is not working. And so that's why I changed the color. So I'm going to test my movie. I got a test movie in Flash Professional. And there my button is colored, which means it's active. If it's not, you could go to Control, Enable Simple Buttons. Let's see. Let's test it again now. I don't know whether I turned it off or on. Okay, it's on. All right. So I'm going back to my scene, and here's my button. So I'm going to take my animation button, and I'm going to go to Action Script. If you look down here, it says Animation Button because I selected it. So any action script I put on this button will only go to this button, won't go to anything else. So I'm going to go to Global Functions, and I'm going to go to Go To, and I want to go to and stop on frame 2 because I want to go to the next page that has all my lists of animations. So let's see what I get when I play this. Not going anywhere. So I'm going to put in a new layer. This is going to say animations. And I'm going to put a keyframe on frame 2. Frame 1. Frame 2. All right. Good. So it's going to frame 2, but then it's going back and forth and back and forth. So what I want to put in is I want to put in one more layer, and I'm going to name it a stop because I want it to stop there. And I'm going to use the stop several times. So here I am I'm going to go to my action script and I'm going to say I want to stop. Now if I play it, I'll go to my animation, and that's my frame 2. That's where my next page is going to be. Well, I've kind of like my background here. So I'm going to take my background and I'm going to put another keyframe in here. Now my background goes to frame 2. So if I play my movie, I can click on my animation, and that's page 2, or frame 2. And that's where I'll work next. I'll go to frame 2. And I am going to, let's see what frame 2 is. Here. And I'm going to put my animations in here, so I have to build some buttons. So on my animation layer, I'm going to build buttons. So I'm going to make them around this time. I'll make 5. So I'm going to make a one. If I hit shift, select. If I hit shift option, I should be able to, where my select tool? I should be able to shift option, make these all the same. Oops. Shift option. There it is. Okay, now I'm going to deselect, shift option, and bring one here. And I'm going to hit shift option, bring one here. And the last one I want is going to be a home button. So I'm going to just bring it over here and then I'll bring it down. So I'll move this one in the middle. This one right here, I'm going to name frame by frame because that's the one that I make. Let me make this white. Make it 12, maybe 13. Frame. Oops. Lost it. Looks like that's a little too big. So make it a little smaller. Okay. I'll move this one over. I'm not going to name all these. This one can be morph. And these are just all the different animations that they can put in here. But this one I am going to name because I'm going to show you this button. This is the home button. Okay. So we do the same thing that we did before. We take this right here and we create a button. Modify it, convert it, and this is my frame by frame button. Oops. I'm just going to do these two. This is my home button. Now when I click this frame by frame button, I'm going to want to go to an animation that's been created as a frame by frame. But first I have to make it an interactive button. So I'm going back over here to my frame by frame button, just like I did my animation button. I'm going to right click it, I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to insert a keyframe, and I'm going to change the color. And if you remember, I changed the color for a reason, so I know if it's interactive or not. insert a keyframe, change the color. Insert a keyframe, change the color. So I'll go here and test my movie. If you notice, I test my movie all the time. I'm going to my frame by frame. Ah, yes, and it's changing color. Yay. So I'm going to go back to my timeline. One thing I didn't stick up here is I wanted to put the word animations. I want it to be a little bigger. Oops. I want it to be white. And I want it to go this way. I'm going to move it over here. So I think my box is going to be cut off here, so that's why everything's kind of centered on this side. Okay, so I have my frame by frame as a button. I have my home as a button. So what do I do next? Well, I want to be able to click on this frame by frame, and I want it to go to an animation, and I want it to play a frame by frame animation. So I'm going to have to put in, oops, I don't want that. Put this there. I'll make this my frame by frame. This is where I'm going to stick my frame by frame animation. So I'm going to go to this button. I'm going to select it. I'm going to go to my action script. If you'll see here, I'm in my frame by frame. And I'm going to go to and play in frame 3, because that's where I'm going to stick my frame by frame. So I'm going to go back to my timeline, and I'm going to go find my animation. I have a student that created a frame by frame for me, Becca Willie. I'm going to use hers. I think it's this one. There it is. And here's her frame by frame. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to hit the shift key. Whoops. I'm going to hold the shift key and try and select everything. There it is. I'm going to right click. I'm going to copy my frames. I'm going to go back to my animation. Here at my frame by frame. And on the third frame, I'm going to insert a keyframe. And I'm going to paste frames. There they are. I like this, but it doesn't go long enough, so I'm going to insert another set of them. There. So I just did it twice. So if I go here, I'm going to play my animation. I'm going to go to my frame by frame. But it at the end it plays. Where's my color change? But it should go back to the animation page. It shouldn't go back to Joanne's portfolio, because I want to be able to play all my animations. So I have to go back to my frame by frame. I go back and I ended up here. So on this layer, this one, the one after my last, I'm going to here, in the end of my frame by frame, I'm going to go back to my action script, and I'm going to tell it to go to and stop on frame 2, because I want it go 2 is where I have all my animation buttons. So let's see. So I'll click on my animation. I'll go to my frame by frame. And now it goes back to it. So now I can go ahead and do my morph. I can do my home. I can do a tween. I can do a shape. I can do a mask. I can put whatever else I want in here. But the other thing I wanted to show you was this home button, because once we've seen all these, we want to click back on this home button, go back to the first frame, and go look at the web pages. And then we'll go back again, and we'll look at the resume. So this home button has to go back to the page to frame 1. So let's look at that. So here we are. We just returned to second frame, this home button. So now we're going to make this home button, and we've already made this a button. So let's edit it. And here we go again. We're going to insert a keyframe and change the color. Insert the keyframe and change the color. Insert the keyframe. Oops. Change the color. Okay. So I can go back to my button. It's ready to go. I'm selecting it, so when I click on my action script, it should. It didn't say home button. Now it does. And I'm going to tell it to go somewhere. I'm going to tell it to go to and stop on frame 1. So when I click that home button, I'll go back to the very beginning. So let's see how that looks. I can go to my frame by frame. Once they create their morphs and their other ones and they're done, they can click on their home button and it takes you to the beginning of the portfolio. So that's my job aid for my students. I hope it was helpful. Goodbye.